Is there or has there ever been a Loch Ness monster? Who was Jack the Ripper? And were we contacted by aliens back in 1977? Hey everyone, and welcome to Science Illustrated. Now, if there's one thing I find exciting, it's real-life mysteries. Therefore, I've put together a short list of weird and, well, somewhat spooky mysteries that we're going to take a look at for this episode. But before we do, remember, if you like what we do on this channel, please do hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on a single video. And now, let's take a look at 10 strange real-life mysteries. The first mystery we're going to talk about is ongoing in the town of Taos, New Mexico, where several people say they can hear a distant, soft hum or buzzing sound. Those who can hear it describe it as being a bit like a diesel engine, only very weak and distant. Not everyone can hear it, but some of the people who can hear this sound report having experienced nausea and dizziness as a result of this constant hum. Known as the Taos Hum, this sound can be heard with the naked ear, but no one has ever managed to record it. The next mystery is a bit more macabre. We're going to talk about one of history's most famous and infamous serial killers. If you've seen the film From Hell starring Johnny Depp, or well, any other film about the serial killer, you're probably very familiar with the name Jack the Ripper. From 1888 to 1891, 11 women, primarily prostitutes, were murdered in London's Whitechapel district. Their bodies were completely mutilated and their throats were cut. On several occasions, the killer also disemboweled his victims. There is some doubt as to whether all of these 11 women were murdered by the same killer. In fact, only 5 of the victims, known as the canonical 5, are conclusively linked to the same killer. One day, however, these gruesome murders suddenly stopped, and the identity of the infamous and atrocious killer Jack the Ripper remains a mystery. Many suspects have been presented over the years, and quite recently it was believed that Jack the Ripper's identity had been revealed with the help of DNA technology. But these DNA samples turned out to be not as conclusive as people had hoped, and therefore the mystery surrounding Jack the Ripper's true identity remains. Is it aliens? Is it giant waves? Is it maelstroms or supernatural phenomena? We're talking about the Bermuda Triangle. It has been the subject of many theories over the years, with new ones being added all the time. There are numerous reports of ships and planes that have disappeared without a trace in this area located between Florida, Puerto Rico and Bermuda. This area is relatively large, so a lot of ships and aircraft pass through it all the time. Unfortunately, the risk of a ship sinking or a plane crashing is ever present. And some of the reports of missing aircraft and ships have proved to be fake or from a completely different area to the Bermuda Triangle. Some reports even suggest that the number of disappeared ships and aircraft is not particularly higher in the Bermuda Triangle than many other places on Earth. And yet, the myths and the fears about what happens when you enter the Bermuda Triangle are still alive and kicking. There are not many man-made things in this world where we have no idea where it came from. But one of the things we don't know very much about is the Voynich Manuscript. Carbon dating shows it to have been written somewhere between 1404 and 1438. The manuscript was purchased in 1912 by the Polish book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, after whom the manuscript is named. It contains 240 pages of different illustrations, drawings and texts. Some of the pages have gone missing over time and no one knows what happened to them. And one of the greatest mysteries of this manuscript are the texts. No one understands what they mean and no one has been able to decode them. Some of the leading World War II codebreakers were even hired to try and decode them, but to no avail. Now it all gets a bit spooky again. In 1948, the body of a man washed up on Somerton Beach, Australia. The man had a piece of paper in his pocket on which the words tamam shud were written, later translated as finished or ended. No one could establish who this man was, where he came from, or even how he had died. It was discovered that the piece of paper he had in his pocket had been torn out of a book. It was also discovered what book it had been torn out of, but this wasn't much help. Both the FBI and Scotland Yard have subsequently tried to help the Australians find out who this man was. However, no one has ever got to the bottom of the mystery. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui as it is called, is famous for its enormous stone sculptures of giant heads dotted about the island. There are almost 900 of these in total, and they are believed to have been created by the original Rapa Nui people. That in itself is quite impressive because some of these sculptures are massive, and almost 900 of them? That's a lot. But another really interesting thing about Rapa Nui is that hieroglyphics have also been found on the island. Today they can be found in museums around the world, but the fascinating and mysterious thing about them is that, like the Voynich Manuscript, no one has ever been able to decipher what they actually say. This is thought to be because this language is extinct and there is no one left in the world who is able to read it. Now, we couldn't possibly make a video about mysteries without including this one, now could we? The Loch Ness Monster. Is it real or is it not? This discussion is ever ongoing, but whatever the case, there are people who say they have definitely seen Nessie, which is the name of the monster in Loch Ness in Scotland. Several photos have been taken and video recordings made of the lake monster, but unfortunately many have been revealed as fakes, or something else entirely, like fish, sea otters, tree trunks, and so on. And without any real evidence, it's not certain if we'll ever find out whether Nessie really existed, or perhaps still does. Right, you may have seen these lines before. These are the Nazca Lines from southern Peru. There are hundreds of them, and the illustrations depict various animals and plants. Some of them are even hundreds of meters long. They were created by the Nazca people, the original Nazca civilization believed to be more than 1500 years old. The amazing thing about these Nazca lines and the illustrations created by the Nazca people is that when they were made, they had no way of seeing these figures from above. And so naturally there's a whole pile of theories about this. The most common theory, of course, is that it was aliens who helped the Nazca people create these lines. This would have meant that the aliens kept an eye on things from above because, well, 1500 years ago, humans had no means of flying. Now, for the next entry on our list, we are going back to the 24th of November 1971. On this date, an unidentified man hijacked a Boeing 727. He demanded $200,000 in ransom for the passengers. The man then took over the plane and got the crew to land it, after which he released the passengers and received his $200,000. But then he and the crew took off again. The crew later reported that at some point the man jumped out of the plane wearing a parachute. He has never been seen since, despite the FBI launching a massive hunt for this man who has been given the name D.B. Cooper. The strange thing is that, besides never having found D.B. Cooper, no one has ever discovered who he was or where he came from. Investigations indicate that he may have worked in the aviation industry, since his tie was found, and there were traces of titanium on it. At that time it was very characteristic of the aviation industry, as it was a very rare material. But that is as close as it gets to identifying D.B. Cooper, let alone finding him. The FBI officially closed the case and stopped pursuing it in 2016, but they have left the door slightly ajar. So if you have any clues or the like about the whereabouts of D.B. Cooper, well, you just give them a call and they'll get right back to it. And now for the final entry on our list. And this may be cheating a little, because this is a mystery which may be in the process of being solved. Still, I've included it because I think it's pretty cool and exciting. It's the mystery of the WOW signal. The WOW signal is a radio signal picked up by Dr. Jerry R. Ehman on the 15th of August 1977 while he was working on the SETI project. The SETI project involves searching for intelligent life in the universe, and Dr. Eman picked up the signal using the Big Ear telescope. It was agreed that if a signal were to be received from outer space, it would sound a lot like this signal. So it was pretty amazing that Eman picked up this very signal. He quickly printed out a piece of paper the signal was on, circled it, and then wrote "wow" in the margin. Hence the name the WOW signal. And this signal has never been picked up since. And yet, because not so very long ago, an astronomer named Antonio Paris decided to take a closer look at this and try to see if he could pick up a similar signal. His investigations showed that it might have been two comets that emitted this signal that Eman picked up back then. In late 2016 and early 2017, Paris then tried to pick up these signals with his own telescope. He did it at a time when he knew that the comets were in the right place at the right time. And sure enough, he picked up a signal that was quite similar to the WOW signal that Eman picked up in 1977. However, there is a question mark over these later investigations, because some scientists believe that it was impossible for Eman to pick up the signals from these comets back in 1977 because they were simply too far away at the time. And the duration of the signal, i.e. 72 seconds, is also unusual for a comet. There is therefore no definitive answer yet, and people are still in disagreement. And fortunately, that means that those of us who hoped that the signal back in 1977 came from aliens, well, we can cling on to our beliefs just a little while yet. Just a little while. Right, those were the 10 weird and somewhat spooky mysteries we chose for this video. There are more mysteries out there, but these were the ones we chose to go with today. Do you know of any mysteries you would like us to take a look at in a future video? Then don't hesitate to write a comment in the comment section and they will definitely find their way to our ideas list. I really do hope you liked the video. If you did, throw us a like and of course hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on any of our videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.